Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Knowledge. Welcome to Brews and Reviews, and Happy New Year. Today, we are looking back at 2020, and I am counting down the top 10 lyrical verses of the year. And I am sipping on a Left Hand Brewing Company IPA. This is one of my favorite IPAs. Really smooth, coming in at 6.6%. So let's get into these lyrical masterpieces.
If you like hip-hop and hops-related content, subscribe to my channel now.
Coming in at number 10 is Black Thought, Fuel. And I could have put so many Black Thought verses on this list. There were so many great ones. I did save a few for my top 10 flows and my top 10 guest appearances, which he was all over the place on guest spots this year. Some people may have put Thought versus Everybody on the lyrics list, and I really considered that one, but ultimately I narrowed it down to Fuel because I think it's his deepest look about injustices in America. He says, yo, identify with the dead or the living, I don't know. Maybe my people set up to fall like a domino. America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo. What's the worst they could do to you? I bet my mama know. I bet my father know you're honored, throw the book at us. Even if justice wasn't blind, she'd never look at us. Number 9, Aesop Rock, Pizza Alley. Man, Aesop's album was out there and on a completely other level. Of course, lots of vocabulary words that you got to have a dictionary handy, but lots of just really great symbolic lyrics and stories also. But I narrowed it down to Pizza Alley from his album because I think it's a great descriptive story of this surreal experience that Aesop had. And when I'm listening to him tell it, it's like listening to a great storyteller or reading a really good book. It puts you right there in the situation. I would make this one close to reading a book like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or something like that. And it also feels like a trip, especially when the whole mood shifts and everything changes and maybe the substance Aesop was on kicked in, or maybe it was just a symbolic change of day to night, something like that, but the beat changes at the same time, and Aesop goes on this visionary quest, and he says, on a screen porch pimpled after dark with frogs and lizards, when high as hell they might as well be Mothras and Godzillas. It's awesome. Peer into the spirit quest spellbound, 3-to-1 machete yelling back into the hell mouth. You hit the labyrinth, an ambassador of peace and love. You might return with the root of your super ego plunged. Number 8 is Vic Mensa, Too Honest. And this song holds completely true to the title. He is being very honest, brutally so. And it's been a while since I've heard an MC or an artist actually get this real with us. We're getting a glimpse into his mental state and the lapses in his mental state. And he's just laying himself bare out there for everyone to see, his hurt and his fears. And he really deserves a lot of credit for that with lines like this. Do you know what the fuck it feels like to wake up every day in distress? Pissed off at yourself, neglect, so you just lay in your mess? And people depend on you, got so much shit on your chest that your train of thought can't seem to find a way to express. I find a notebook in my parents' crib when I was 5. I went inside. It said, I hate myself. I want to die. I cried. I couldn't even fathom a child feeling so lonely. So next time someone tell you about Vic, say they don't know me. Number 7 is Conway the Machine, Frontlines. Conway really stepped up his game lyrically this year, and he made it known. He carved out that space in himself as Griselda's scribe. He is the one with the deep and thoughtful lyrics, and he displays it here and touches on one of the number one themes of the year, and that's murdering ass cops and injustice in general. The same theme that Black Thought touched on and that others on this list will touch on as well. Sparked obviously this year by the protests after the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and others. And Conway lays it out for us. He says, "I just seen a video on the news I couldn't believe. Another racist cop kill and get to leave. He's screaming, 'I can't breathe,' cop ignoring all his pleas. Hands in his pocket, leaning on his neck with his knees. Cracker invent the laws, that's why the system is flawed. Cops killing black people on camera and don't get charged." Number 6, R.A. the Rugged Man, Malice of Mammon. Don't let this one slip under the radar. One thing I love about R.A. is he has so many different topics that he can speak on, and he'll be rapping about dick jokes on one song, and then the very next song he gets into a serious topic like this. He's also speaking on injustices in America, including the murdering police, but not limited to that. He's talking about how money corrupts everything in a capitalist society and how money has specifically corrupted America. On the following lines in particular, he's talking about the healthcare system and pharmaceutical companies when he says, "Push false diagnoses and drug your brains. Make Pablo Escobar's drug hustle look like chump change. No need for discipline. Feed the children Adderall and Ritalin. Prescription medicine, synthetic heroin, and Dexedrine. Use your kids as guinea pigs, their minds and bodies. Turn them into drug-induced, suicidal zombies." Number 5 is Shay Noir, Daddy's Girl. And honestly, I could have made this whole list Shay Noir. She amazed me lyrically this year, and it's one of the main reasons that As God Intended was my number 1 album of the year.
Check out that list from Brews and Reviews when you get a chance.
But I narrowed it down to Daddy's Girl at number 5 because we've heard a lot of absentee father songs and fuck my dad kind of songs from male MCs, but we haven't necessarily heard it from the female perspective as much, and she really lays it out here eloquently, and she really gets philosophical and gives us the full picture about what growing up without a father or a close relationship with a father did to her. With lyrics that are very perceptive for her age, she says, "Look, the older I get, the more I find it harder to date, as I deal with men and make them suffer for my father's mistakes." Let me pause there. I've known a lot of women like that who didn't have the insight to realize that's what was going on within themselves. So Shay is really beyond her years here. She continues, "It's hard to explain the pain that it caused at my age, knowing your pops ain't coming home and watch your mama go slave for a minimum wage." Number 4 is Eminem, Darkness. And say what you will about Eminem, but he created a great double meaning on this song. And I picked this because it just blew my mind. Bad choice of words given the subject matter for this song, but it really just wowed me the first time that I heard it because I didn't see the end coming. And maybe some people that are smarter than me out there, maybe they saw the end coming. I know there are cocking gun sounds in the background, but I think if everybody's really being honest, they didn't catch all that the first time they listened to it. And they thought that he was talking about performing at a show, not going on a mass murder spree in a show, which is what it turned out to be. Either way, the way that he employed so many lines to have double meanings is really expert wordsmithing. Like when he says, "Wait, is this the whole crowd? I thought this shit was sold out. But it's only the opening act. It's early, don't overreact. Then something told me relax and just hope for the show to be packed. Don't want to hit the stage before they fill each row to the max, 'cause that'd be totally whack. You can't murder a show that nobody's at." Number 3 is Lupe Fiasco, Shoes. Also, don't sleep on the House EP. This was on my top EPs of the year. Go check that video out when you get a chance. But there's nobody better at symbolism than Lupe Fiasco, and he did it perfectly here. Hint, when you're listening to this song, it's not really about shoes. just like Dinosaurs off that EP isn't really about dinosaurs. But Lupe and Virgil Abloh, for his part, both create this allegory that talks about waiting in line for these new sneakers to come out, but is really a lesson on the history of racism in America, all culminating with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, who was murdered by white men when he was just out for a run. Lupe says, "We fell down, then we got up, picked Pac up, picked Nip up. This is the type of tripping that Scuff kicks up. Traditionally, creases was a style to refuse, but now they represent every mile in your shoes. Any mud on your sole gets toweled and removed. It's like I'm retracing every trial. No, it took strength. Giant steps, flowers growing out of the footprints." Number 2, Shay Noor. Again, I had to work her in one more time, and this one is Blood is Thicker. It could have been 12 hours. That's a great story song, executed very well, but when considering it for this list, I did feel it was too much like Nas, and Shay is definitely the new Nas. Obviously highly influenced by him, but some lines in that were lifted straight from Undying Love. Still a great song lyrically, and I love the way she executes it, but I didn't want to include it on the top 10 because of that. But on the reverse, Blood is Thicker is very much influenced by Nas's I Gave You Power, in that she personifies an inanimate object, but this is her own take on it, her own personality, and her own lyrics on this. And in this case, she is personifying the ghetto. She says, "They call me the ghetto, the hood, the judge that trenches the slums. I created fatherless homes with menace and thugs. My stray bullets then took the life of kids while they young. A white man's world, so I never get visits from Trump. Street callings with liquor store, drugs, and 3 cops. That's what they getting wet off. Call that my G-spot." Number 1 is Killer Mike, Walking in the Snow, and I think this has to be the undisputed best verse of the year. Mike did his thing, talking about the theme of the year on top of the bars about police murdering black people, and he wrote this even before George Floyd was murdered. LP also holds his own lyrically on this song by talking about the injustice of Trump keeping kids in cages and separating kids from their families, but it's ultimately Mike whose words will be synonymous with the year 2020. And when you can write just a few lines that sum up an entire year, that's great art. And I know Kendrick won a Pulitzer before, so can we please give Mike a Pulitzer for this and summing up this year in just these few lines with Walking in the Snow? Give this man a high esteemed award for this, please. A Grammy, something. He says, "They promise education, but really they give you tests and scores. And they predict in prison population by who's scoring the lowest. And usually the lowest scores the poorest, and they look like me. And every day on the evening news, they feed you fear for free. And you so numb you watch the cops choke out a man like me until my voice goes from a shriek to whisper, I can't breathe. And you sit there in the house on couch and watch it on TV. The most you give's a Twitter rant and call it a tragedy." Poignant words from a great MC summing up the whole of 2020. Those were the top 10 lyrics of the year. Check out my upcoming videos on the top 10 verses, and I might do one on the top 10 guest appearances as well. This has been Brews and Reviews. Thank you for watching my list. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with in the comments, or if there's any other verses that you considered in the top 10 of the year. Please subscribe to my channel. I drop hip-hop and hops related content consistently. So until I see you next time, keep buzzing.